if you've seen the article, but there's an article we're going to kind of walk through because I thought it was really, really good. Zachary Reimer wrote it, and he was talking about who this season, from a MLB point of view, as we head into spring training, who has something to prove. So, and he kind of starts out with his honorable mentions, and he looks at the elite prospects. So Alvarez, I don't know if do you know much about him with the Mets. He's a catcher. All right. How about Andrew Painter with the Phillies? You know Andrew Painter? He's a decent
I know
pitcher.
the name. I can't picture what
He's
he
a decent
looks like.
pitcher, yeah.
I actually know that name.
Yeah, you got Grayson Rodriguez with the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this, you also got Jordan Walker with the Cardinals. Of those, I think I'm looking at that list. Painter for sure. I mean, he's got to really come in and do well for Philly this year. Jordan Walker, he's going to be in AAA if he doesn't show up. But he's done nothing but club the ball. So hopefully that trend continues, and it makes it really tough for some of these veterans who haven't been able to put a back-to-back season together. Make it tough. That's what I always tell people. There's nothing like making it tough for the coach to figure out who's going to be on that team. So then you've got the next set of who were free agent flops that need a rebound.
Mm-hmm.
We got Javier Baez, Chris Bryant, Edward Rodriguez, and Robbie Ray. So of those, I'm just going to say I think Chris Bryant is still going to break out. I mean, he looked all right last year when he was playing. He just was injured too much. But Colorado, where he's, the fans there, it's kind of a relaxed atmosphere. I think he'll adapt. I expect him to be able, I don't know what they expect him to hit. In my opinion, if he hits, between 28 to 32 home runs and bangs in about 280, 270 there, I think that's probably what your expectation should be of Chris Bryant in left field at this point. So Baez definitely was not good for Detroit last year, and they had a decent team. So I hope he figures it out. And they also had Rodriguez, the pitcher there, another one with the Tigers, good team, but they had a couple players that just didn't step up, and they were expecting more from them. Robbie Ray with Seattle. So
I think Robbie Ray. I mean, he's a good pitcher. I don't necessarily think he has something to prove. I think, I think they're anticipating wanting a bounce back season.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. He's a little bit older. They want a bounce back season. I think the other problem with him is that there's some young guys in their minors that are right at the breakthrough point, and so Robbie Ray has to show that he's can secure that spot. Otherwise, one of those young guys might have it.
Yeah, Robbie Ray, Cy Young.
Mm-hmm.
He won a Cy Young. Is that incorrect?
I don't know if he won a Cy Young. I know he was in a race at one point.
I thought maybe he won one year, but
I think he was in a race one year. He had a good year one.
He's been good. He'll have a good season. He's got a good arm.
Yeah. So then we got the assorted veterans. You got Ian Anderson, Joey Gallo. I'm going to stop there. I thought he did all right. I mean, he's going to go to Minnesota. They're going to compete. He seems to do good anywhere, not not New York. So, I think he'll do all right. Jack Flaherty of the Cardinals. He's the enigma for the Cardinals because he's been injured the last several years. Seems to be more interested in off-field social justice type stuff. And on top of that, he's one of those guys, when he gets going, he's good. But he just has not put together a solid season in 3 or 4 years. So it's his last year. After this year, he's a free agent. He's had some conflict with the Cardinals on, contracts. So he's always said, I'm going to get paid. And, they've gone back and forth. It seems like every year the two, they can't. He's never happy with what he gets paid, it seems like. And then you throw that on top. I just think, okay, so if he does well this year, what do the Cardinals do? Did they go out and sign him and pay him the big money because he's finally healthy for 1 year and has a good year? To me, he's an enigma because either side of this thing, I really thought the Cardinals should have traded him because they're not in a win-win situation here. If he doesn't do well, they're counting on him at the top of the rotation. Their whole rotation is going to fall off. I mean, Waino at 41 is not a number one. Michaelis, I mean, he can step into the role at times, but the problem is when you go playoff time, there's a reason that he wasn't the number one starter in last year's playoff. He doesn't have shutdown stuff. So, Montgomery, we still need to see how he adjusts and how he does. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he'll be a great number two. I don't know if I think of him as a number one. So again, I go back and say they've hinged a lot on Flaherty this season. If he doesn't perform, they're not going to get anything on a trade. He's going to walk out the door. They got nothing for a guy who still has some value because teams. He's still a guy that people remember doing well just a few years ago. So he's an enigma for the Cardinals. Moving on, we got Jared Kelenic with the Mariners. You got Mike Soroka with Atlanta. He's done well at times. I think he'll bounce back. I think Atlanta's going to be dangerous again this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jess Winkler with the Brewers. I don't know enough about him. He's their DH. Do you know much?
He can hit. He can get hot if he's playing every day. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been since he was not an everyday player, but
Yeah, I mean he's DH, so he should get play time.
DH. Everybody thinks you can just, hey, you're old, you're gonna DH now, or hey, we don't have a spot for you on the field. DHing is not as easy as playing every day. It's harder.
You think?
I think, in my personal experience. But again, I'm not.
Well, the expectation's
Winkler.
probably higher too because you got nothing on the field. The show. It's everything about a DH is your swing. I mean, everything you're graded on one part of the product. So I can see where you would come from that. I mean,
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he does in the DH role.
yeah. I 100% agree. I like their DH last year. So
Especially for a guy that is pretty good in the field.
yeah.
Like, I would imagine sitting in a dugout day after day, like man, I'm gonna go catch a fly ball. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's move into his top 10 because I thought some of these are good. We got Spencer Torkelson of Detroit Tigers. You know much about him?
No.
Oh, he's 23. So, and he was the Tigers' number one pick in 2020.
Okay.
He had a 30 homer season last year in the minors in 2021, and he think of him as the Jordan Walker for the Detroit Tigers. The thing I find interesting, I think he's a first baseman, right?
I'm trying to
Yeah.
pull up this thing. It's not loading.
That's right. He's a first baseman, and there's high expectations. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Last year his pro metrics didn't quite. They were hoping him to be the next guy to fill Miggy's spot, and he didn't quite do it last year. So we'll have to see. I mean, there's high. But he just got drafted a couple years ago. So
Yeah. I would never put any expectations on. Sorry, I hear that little background when I turn my internet on.
you're okay.
Yeah, a guy like that, I wouldn't put any expectations on him at all, ever. I mean, when Mike Trout came up, I think, everybody knew, like, there's something about him. But even then, they kind of just waited. Like, he had a bad first year in the big leagues. There weren't really expectations, and then
Took off.
he took off. I just don't. What's the point of putting an expectation on someone that's never stepped foot on the field?
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's another one that we got, and this is going to be somebody you know a lot about, anyways. Good old Bellinger.
Yeah, Cody.
Yeah. So he's got he's going to Chicago, going to Cubs. What are your thoughts about him? I mean, he needs a bounce back year for sure. I mean, the last couple of years have not been friendly to him. No doubt his
last
potential.
3 years not that great. Talking about enigmas, man. I don't.
Is this a guy that the
How do you
shift
go
will help
for-
a little bit?
I don't. Oh yeah, it'll help him a lot.
That's
Yeah,
what I thought.
Yeah, it'll help him a lot. I don't know how you go from MVP to like not being able to hit. Period. I don't know.
Matt Carpenter might be able to tell you. He's another one. He was an MVP, but he had a couple great seasons, and he was a solid 300-plus hitter, and all of a sudden he just fell off a
Yeah, but that was
cliff.
after, like, he had multiple.
Well, sure. He had about 4 or 5 really solid years.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he'll. We had this discussion earlier about day games and Cubs. I've heard interviews since then about him talking about the day games and all that, and maybe he will do well in day games. I just know how he operates, and I don't foresee having to get up at 9 o'clock regularly is going to bode well for him over the course of 162 games.
Gotcha. Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out with Cody. I think, he has the potential. I like the move by Chicago. He was a 1-year deal, so you're not, putting yourself out. But, I mean, if he bounces back and finds any of his MVP season, my expectation, I'll lay it out here. I think he hits somewhere between 25 and 30 home runs this year, and he bats about 278.
278.
Yep.
You think he's going from 160s for the last 3 years to 278?
We'll see. Chicago without the shift, new place, less pressure. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's either going to hit 100 or 300. I don't think you're going to see like a 240, 275. I think it's going to
either on or off.
He's either going to be like, okay, I don't know what's going on, or okay, there it is.
Okay.
I don't think there's a middle ground for him at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I mean you know him better than I do, so I would definitely, consider your opinion. Very much.
Right.
So, how about White Sox? We got Lucas Giolito. Do you know about him?
I know a tiny bit about him.
He was one of the best pitchers in baseball between 19 and 21, and all of a sudden last year, his ERA went from 3.47 up to 6.13. So, it looks like his velocity was down a little bit last year.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, he had a abdominal sprain at one point during the COVID stuff. So all that said, expectations for him, I would, in my knowledge of the White Sox, I would say he should be able to bounce back. I mean, he just had one bad year, really. He was a little injured the year before, but
Yeah, I mean, 2022.
He's still young.
He had a 4.9 in 2022. Made every start though.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think teams are pitching's hard to find. So I mean, if his bad years are still under 5, I think Chicago.
Yeah, sticks with him and tries
even
to.
though he's not what they thought he was. He's still not.
Well, and he's young. He's 28 years old, so it's not like he's. In a lot of ways, he might be going to prime his career. So that's why I was wondering if, maybe he'll pick up in his offseason with a normal offseason, everything going well.
Yeah.
A lot of things behind. Is this a guy who can, gain back that mile or two in velocity? And
it's so hard to tell in baseball because it's so hard. Baseball's so hard that, like, I'm sure last year just a little something felt weird. The ball coming off. Maybe he was like just a little bit injured.
Yeah, I was thinking with the abdominal strains, without having a normal off season, probably because you still had some of that COVID protocol stuff going on. This is going to be, a really strong year for those who might have been affected by that. So, I think hopefully he'll have a good bounce back year. I have a couple friends that are really, well, one friend in particular, Will, who loves the White Sox. He's when I didn't know his name at the gym for a while, we called him White Sox. He's diehard. So. All right, next one. Atlanta Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr., 25 years old. Came out, I mean, you know what he's done. He's a good player, but last year wasn't quite his best year. So, a little bit.
Yeah, but he's a good hitter.
He is. I mean, the thing is he's moving into a more of a leadership role, I think, with Atlanta. So, he's going to have to pick up his game a little bit. So, he is a good hitter, though. So
yeah, and to just riff off the White Sox pitcher a little bit. I mean, his first 2 or 3 years were so phenomenal that, like, that's what I'm saying. Even if he has like an average year like he did last year, a little bit below, as a team, you're still like, okay, we're still getting big value out of this guy.
Yeah.
So Yeah, you hope he has a better season.
How about Nick Castellanos of the
Castellanos.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you
Phillies?
think about Nick? You like Nick?
When he's healthy, he signed a big contract, $100 million with
Yeah,
Philly.
I think he's a good teammate guy. He's good. He's one of those big guys. Can swing and miss a lot. Can
Yeah,
got a lot of moving parts. So if something gets off,
yeah. The other thing about him is it seems like he's a little bit of an injury-prone guy. If I, so. But when he plays, he seems to play well. He's not a deficit on the glove part either. He's a pretty good defender. So,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean, it's so tough it's yes, he's injury the last 2 or 3 years, but I mean you got to think about this guy's 30 years old, going on 31. He's been playing professionally probably since he was 18.
yeah,
He's probably played 10 whole seasons in a row healthy at some like he just
yeah,
so
yeah.
you know
Yeah, he just give him a
catches
little
up
bit of
with
a
it.
break.
Yeah,
Hopefully, he has a bounce. That's why these guys have to bounce back this season. The next one, we got two Yankees that he put at number 5: Josh Donaldson and Aaron Hicks with the New York Yankees.
yeah.
Donaldson,
I don't think Donaldson needs a bounce back year. He's gosh, man, some guys are just so easy to root against.
well, he's 37 years old, so that's one of the things that I think is going to start playing against him. I mean, there's just not how many 37-year-olds are at the top of their game. I mean, that's
Far and few between.
so it's not a wonder that his production's dropped off. Hicks is a little bit different because he's younger. He's 33. He still has, he should still be able to turn it around. I think a little. I'm more optimistic about Hicks, though Donaldson definitely is more of a track record. So they both need to turn something around, or the Yankees aren't going to have a good season. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've invested a lot of money in these people. So um, yeah,
$50 million between the two of them.
yeah. Well, that's what I said. They're expecting them to produce, and I like Donaldson and his hype as far as I love how he is a rah rah guy, but he goes over the top at times and is a little bit more against the other team. It's one thing to cheer your team up. It's another thing to what's the word? Be a little more. He gets a little more personal, I think, at times. So that's how I would put it.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just not I don't know, are not enjoyable to be around, and so you have an X amount of players in the MLB. You're bound to come across guys like Josh Donaldson that just you watch them play and you're like, ugh, like, ah, man, like cringe,
Yeah.
like just like, ugh, clean it up a little bit, Um, but yeah, Josh Donaldson.
Hicks, did you ever play against Donaldson?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came up together in the minor leagues, and so I've seen his act for a really long time. Yeah,
Was he that way in the minors?
He's not a guy like there are 99% of the guys in the big leagues. You're like, man, I'd like to have a beer with that guy. If Josh Donaldson asked me to go for, I'd be like, nah, like.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's how I think of Josh Johnson.
Was
Yeah.
he that way in the minors when you saw him back then? Yeah. He's kind of always had a little bit of who he is there.
Yeah.
So, all right. So next one. Next one is a guy I wish the Cardinals would trade for, Chris Sale. So, but he's been injury prone the last couple of years. He was a solid rock for a long time, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Since being with the Red Sox,
Yeah.
he's really struggled the last couple of seasons staying healthy. Last year it wasn't, and the thing about last year is it wasn't anything to do with like pitching health. It was a bunch of freak accidents, the bicycle accident. Then you had the ball that came back, he pitched one game, and I think he
Yeah.
only pitched 2 games last year,
Hit
and,
him.
another one nicked him, and it just seems like it was one of those things that just was a little weird. But he said that he's back, he's doing well, he's in spring training.
Yeah, the tricky thing about baseball is that people get paid based on what they did.
Right.
And so you see this all the time in baseball. Like age 33, age 34, he's got a $150 million contract. Oh, he's injured, he's not performing. Well, yeah, because he's getting paid based on what he already did. He's older, like you're going to have a guy that has thrown X amount of innings for the last 10 years,
Yeah,
slinging it. He's going to get hurt. He's going to not perform. So
he's going to need Tommy John eventually,
yeah,
right? I think that's what he had.
I just,
So.
so to see like Chris Sale and
Yeah, but do
Josh
you think he'll bounce back?
Donaldson no, I think that as a trend, like Josh Donaldson had like years and years and years, like MVP, good, and then there was something that happened in his age and his career. He got paid like I just some people relax a little bit. They don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but Chris Sale came back last year, and his 2 games he pitched well. I mean, do you think he's going to do okay this season? I mean, if he can stay healthy, I would say that he should be. I mean, he's 30.
Yeah, if he, but my point is this is the norm. People get in their mid to late 30s and they get hurt.
Yeah. Donaldson's still. I mean, Sale's still kind of young though. He's 33. That's still.
Yes,
I know.
but how he's been in the big. He's thrown.
Yeah,
I guarantee he's thrown over 1,000 innings.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying he's had the last couple of years were hurting, and last year was a bunch of frequent. So he's had almost 3 years where he's not pitched.
That arm still has an odometer on it that says otherwise. So you can't take miles off an arm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, moving on, my friend. Moving on. How about Anthony Rendon at 32? Another guy who got injured. Another injury guy that we've been seem to be talking a lot about these guys coming back from injuries. Rendon, but Rendon is, 32 is still kind of young. He plays third base. He was a great third baseman. I don't see any reason he doesn't bounce back and do well. Do you?
Yeah, if he's early 30s, if he's healthy, he'll perform.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good hitter overall. All right, number 2, which has already become an issue, Jacob deGrom. So if you haven't paid attention, he's already saying he's kind of feeling some discomfort down in Texas. So he is not pitching in spring training at the moment, though he's there. So 34, great pitcher. When he's on, he's the best pitcher in baseball. He's got to show that Texas doesn't want to pay him for what he did in the past. They want to get something out of him for this contract. So hopefully, I think he'll be able to turn around. I'm not overly concerned when a pitcher walks into spring training, feels a little something, especially if they've already had Tommy. But that's always I guess when you sign a big player like that as a pitcher, that's always in an owner's back of their mind. I mean, you're paying a guy $30, $40, $50 million. You're thinking about man, this guy, I really hope he comes through,
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, if he gets healthy, I just think there's some guys have a certain amount of talent that if they're healthy, they'll perform. And I think DeGrom's one of those arms, one of those talents that if he's healthy, he'll perform.
So what you're saying is he'll do it, but here's an interesting thing. Because you also had the guy that came up with him, Thor, out there, and I'm interested to see how the two of them do. Because he didn't sign as big of a contract with the Dodgers, and yet
$7 million, 1 year, 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he has a great year, he could wind up being the better of those two this year.
Absolutely.
And he's with a good team with the Dodgers. So number 1, they've got Fernando Tatis Jr. So and so as we talk about Tatis. One of the things we have to, discuss, let's say, about Tatis is he's going to be out the first 20 games still from last year's suspension.
Oh, he got suspended for what?
Drugs.
Cheating,
Yeah. So he'll be back. He's going to be on a great Padres team. Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this last broadcast, but the Padres got Michael Wacha too. They signed him. So back in rotation. So he was the Red Sox best pitcher last year. And now the Padres just made him their number 5 guy. So, it kind of shows you the Padres are in a win-now mode. Sure.
They've been in a win mode for, 5 years plus.
Yeah, but they're this last year, they're going out. You look at that lineup, in the middle of that lineup, and especially if Tatis is healthy and hits like he should.
Yeah. Well, who knows? He's probably not taking what he used to take.
Yeah, that's what.
So who knows how he's going to react? His body's going to react. I don't know. He said, what did he say? He was taking it for Rogaine, or it was like a hair treatment. He was doing it for hair treatment.
I don't remember now off the top of my head.
I think that was something to do with his hair. He said he took something.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to know. You know, some of these things. There's so many chemicals and all these different things. You never know on that. I try to give some players benefit of the doubt. I mean, but
Yeah, but no. But I'm gonna stop you there because I don't remember what year it is. At some point, I don't know if it was like 2008 or 9. Like it was a league wide thing because there was supplement stores and all these like Supermint supplement stores where all these guys were going to get their powders and stuff to work out, and places started because it's unregulated. All those aren't looked at by the
right, right,
NBA.
right.
So manufacturers can put whatever they want in. They can do protein powder on this thing and then steroids on this thing, and then they're going to cross contaminate. There's no regulations. So MLB came in and said like, hey, we have these things. They're called NF certified. They're NF certified, which means they're regulated. They go through stringent testing, and they give you information every year and it says, hey, if you're going to take supplements, if you're going to get non-approved team supplements that don't come from the team, here's a list of things that you can take, and
Okay.
here's everything. If you ever have to take medicine for anything, if you ever get prescription drugs, here's a number. You can send a sample. We can test it for you and make sure that there's nothing in it. And so this has been going on for years and years and years and years and years and years. So to say like, I didn't know, like,
Yeah, you could have sent the sample in, but would you have thought if? I mean, if it is the
yeah,
hair thing, would you?
100%, 100%. Yeah, anything I ever got a prescription for,
Right.
if I had any question, if anything was like, yeah, you just send it off or you don't take it.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I mean, that's why you're Scott VanSlyke,
no,
the Dodger stud.
no. Former Dodger, no stud, still my name though.
Yeah. So with that, we got some players who are going to definitely need to up their ante this season. I think it's gonna be a fun season, maybe better than most, just because of all the changes to some degree. It's gonna be interesting to see how some do and some don't do.
Yeah.
And we talked about the World Baseball Classic with that going on to see if players like Jordan Walker and some of these others superstars, won't stick with some of these teams because they have a little bit longer look and can have a little more time to prove themselves than maybe they would normally get there in spring training. So I'm really looking forward to this year. 2023 could be one of the best years in baseball, in my opinion. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of teams going for it. It's not just the Yankees. I mean,
Yeah.
and the Dodgers have always spent a lot of money, but this year they're a little more cautious. So they're going to be, that doesn't mean that they're not a good team. I mean, any team that has Mookie Betts and Kershaw and players like that, you're going to compete. So it's going to be the other thing that's going to be interesting is again, a lot of changes. We got more interleague play.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't be beating up on teams like the Cardinals won't be able to beat up on the Pirates or the Reds as much.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be playing teams like the Blue Jays and some of these other teams, the Orioles, that are going to give them, I think, a little more. I told somebody the other day at the gym that whoever wins the National League Central could honestly be an 80-game winner.
Yeah, probably maybe.
Yeah, if you think about a normal season, the guy who wins it could be 88 to 89 wins could win it. Well, I mean, if all these teams are going to be playing much tougher competition, if they lose 8 extra games a year to playing teams like the Yankees and the Blue Jays, and I mean, you think 8 or 9 games, it's not a whole lot of extra games, but that could be the difference. Whoever wins the division could be a 500 team.
Mm-hmm.
500 ball, for teams who aren't stepping up. That one of my concerns about the Cardinals this year is being a super fan. I would say, without pitching at the top of that rotation, I think they're going to really. They'll do well against the normal teams they play. They'll do their thing. But when they go and play some of these American League teams that are built to win now, and teams like the Padres, who last year were still a little beatable,
Mm-hmm.
they're less beatable this year. A lot of teams went out and filled some holes.
I'm going to reiterate this again, but I am just thinking about all of my hard hit balls, or maybe there were 4-hoppers that I hit left of the pitching mound in my big league career. I just, if there was no shift, I don't know I don't know what I would have. I might have hit 350. I might have hit 315. I don't know. I know I would have hit significantly better. I don't think. I think people are going to be surprised at how. Like you're going to have a guy hitting 315 that you never even heard of because of the shift. I think it's going to change baseball so much from what we've seen over the past 10 years or 15
Oh,
years.
100%.
People are going to go,
Well, and defensively, it's going to change things because you're going to see some flaws in people that maybe you didn't see flaws in before because they were,
they only had to go one way or, you know.
Yeah, I think of like the Cardinals a lot of times when you would kind of do the shift and you have players up the center like a Gorman who's more of a natural first or third baseman playing second base. All of a sudden, if he's got more room, he's going to have to cover. Can a guy like that cover as much? Or is that why they're shifting him to DH pretty much this season?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That I think I'll go back and say I think there's a lot this year that's going to make this an interesting season. Probably one of the more interesting ones in quite some time. Just you got a lot of parity things going on. You got a lot of teams with a lot of changes going on. You've got the rule change. It just in World Baseball Classic. It just seems like this is one of those years where there's a lot all happening at once in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, we're going to see guys who we did not expect become superstars, and we're going to expect we're going to see some superstars who disappear into the nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be a fairly fun year to watch. All right, man.